You could be familiar with Paranormal, which is a South Korean shoegaze dream pop act that broke pretty big in indie music circles last year with a couple of albums actually. One of them that I heard, wasn't too keen on it, I'm not going to lie, but then there was another one that I didn't hear that was a big collaboration piece, which apparently is better than the other album that Paranormal did as a solo act, or I've heard some people think it's better. So definitely worth checking that one out at some point. And Paranormal in general, by the way, are definitely worth checking out, even if it doesn't necessarily get, you know, a certified not real music approved. I'd still recommend it. And in an unexpected turn of events from this dream pop shoegaze act, we have the same artist going under a different name, a pseudonym, Mydreamfever, and has dropped a neoclassical piece here, which I was just not even aware of until it was passed on to me. And I wouldn't have even expected it, because obviously the music that Paranormal make is like nothing like this. But in one of my favourite kind of musical ways, Rough and Beautiful Place is an album that I just had no idea about, and it's ended up being a bit of a favourite of mine. I just like it when I stumble upon something that I just didn't even know anything about, and then I get to, you know, recommend it to more people, and I myself, you know, love it. And this is just such a great album. It's exactly the kind of album that caters to me, so I guess you probably should turn off the video, or, you know, stop listening to me if you don't really care for, like, you know, modern, classical, neoclassical, new age type sounds, because I think you should be a fan of that style of music, because I think it's absolutely stunning and beautiful. But if you're not, then I think this kind of album could just wash over you and you wouldn't really get much out of it. But it hit me. It's certainly one of the most overlooked genres in the modern day, though. I mean, certainly never gets any kind of like mainstream attention. I think a lot of people probably don't really care for this style of music anymore in the same way they did back in like the 1800s. They were bumping that shit back in 1805, but still, any kind of like relaxation style of music, you know, you see it all you see it all over YouTube, man. All those like chill lo-fi beats and shit that people listen to when they're just trying to like relax and have some downtime. You should be playing stuff like this as well. The opening track is a really long piece here, but it's so serene and somehow does maintain a really interesting atmosphere for the runtime. I would say maybe slightly shorten it. As a mild critique, I maybe think you could take a few minutes off it, but I still really like it for the length that it is. It just very patiently grows, and then it hits this really, really wonderful climax. About like 4-ish minutes towards the end of the track, it just really like grows and comes to life in such a great way. And I feel like the artwork, it just captures exactly the essence of what this track makes you feel. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, especially amongst music critics, to kind of like draw comparisons to the artwork and then make it, you know, link to the music, but I think sometimes it's very apt to do that. And there is just no other image I could picture listening to this track than the artwork. I do feel like I'm just walking through this really grassy field, and the sun has just kind of like burst out of nowhere on a cloudy day, and the heavens have opened, and it's just so it's a great opening track that immediately just gives this really nature feel to the album. You can see throughout the album that Mydreamfever is playing with kind of like natural sounds and natural sort of imagery in the music, and I think this track just sets that up perfectly. Circulation is the third track, and it's certainly the most committed to the kind of natural sounds, I think, compared to any of the other tracks. It's way more somber though, and I think it actually has a bit too much empty space in places, but I still like what he's going for, even if I would easily label it as my least favourite track. It's not as enlightening, and there's none of those like aha moments that just feel like you're just totally taken aback and you're swept off your feet like you are on many of the other tracks. I mean, I say many, there are 6 tracks, so you know, the 5 other tracks, I guess you could say. But maybe it would have been too predictable to do that though, because some of these tracks do have similar structures in that they're beautifully, you know, played piano pieces, and then they kind of crescendo and build upwards. Not that I'm slating the album for doing that, because I love what he does here, but I guess maybe just one track not doing that isn't too bad. Spirit of Love is a good example of that as well, especially like how the melody sounds so amazing to start with, and then he kind of like transforms it as the song goes along, and then it like becomes something that it wasn't at the start, and then midway through he'll like change it again, and it just like really crazy how he just kind of like makes these subtle changes to each like sort of like aspect of the melody, and it just becomes something new. It's really cool. But the track that's totally, as Stevie Wonder once sang, knocks me off my feet, is Moment Is Now. This one is magnificent. Can you hear those sharp melodies on this song? If you can't, you are probably deaf. Oh my god. Makes me want to solve world hunger, man. This track is just the most life-affirming shit I think I may hear in the year of 2022. And we're like 8-ish days into the year. How? I don't know if Mydreamfever is aware of Masakatsu Tagaki. I mean, I certainly am. It had my album of the decade and has some of my favourite albums of all time generally across his discography, because he's just so good. But this track certainly feels like it could slip into one of Masakatsu's albums. And look, anything that reminds me remotely of Masakatsu is a win, and this track is the biggest win of them all. If you're going to listen to one song, and it's actually a pretty short song compared to some of the others too, so if you are just going to pick like one track to just maybe test to see what the album's going to be like, click this one. It has to be this one. Love this one, obviously. Just indicative of how much attention to detail this man is able to bring to the music, because this is such a stunner. Another stone cold stunner is the title track as well. I think this is a really blissful moment on the album. Just really delicate melody that's being played. Another one that builds as well, as you may expect. And once the layers of instrumentation kind of build and join together by the end of the track, it is just remarkable sounding. And I love like the little details as well throughout the track, where you can hear like the little like flutters coming through from the birds, the little like birds singing. That's a really nice added touch as well. Yeah, this album's great, man. It is exactly the kind of album that Not Real Music would be gushing over. And I'm just, again, in awe of how early in the year we have an album like this. And similarly with the Vale Smith album I just reviewed as well. Like, that's 2 albums in the space of a week that I'm already saying, look, these are going to be on my year-end list. And I don't really know how that's happened. I certainly can't think of any of the years since starting this channel particularly where I've kicked off the year with 2 reviews and they've both been like, you know, high scoring albums and great releases that I'm already loving, which maybe speaks to how good 2022 could potentially be by the end of the year. I don't want to speak too soon, but yeah, it's just a rare occurrence where something like this happens. But anyway, it's an 8 out of 10 from me, man. Mydreamfever is an artist to watch in the future. I would love to see more albums coming through under this pseudonym. I don't know if it's just going to be the only one, because obviously Parannoul is its own thing as well. I don't know, but I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, because this is great, and definitely check it out if you are interested in any of the things I described throughout this album. The main thing really is how it makes you feel, and I think an album like this can really touch you in ways that others might not be able to, but it definitely hit a spot for me. And that's just, the way I worded that sounds so bad, man. It's definitely going to be chopped and taken out of context, man. I'm probably going to be like, you know, accused of talking about porn or something in my videos. But anyway, what a great album this is. 2 great albums already in the start of the year. 2022 is shaping up to be a good one. Let me know your thoughts if you've heard this. I've seen this floating around in the music circles. I think some people will have heard it. If you haven't already, though, you have to find it on Bandcamp. I don't think it's on streaming at all, but it's a name your price one. So, you know, if you're feeling generous, you want to spare a few pounds after you play it, and if you like it, go for it, man. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, definitely do. Have a good day, and goodbye.